Hi, I'm Gayla. After 20 years of climbing the corporate ladder, I took the leap and started my own business to pursue my dream of creating a work-from-anywhere lifestyle. Having the freedom to work from practically anywhere is such a cool feeling. You're in the right place if you're looking for ideas and inspiration to start and grow your own online business. Every week in this podcast, you'll receive practical ideas, hints, tips, and tricks to help you grow your online business where you can leverage your time and you can accomplish more. You too can experience wonderful adventure and freedom as you live life on your own terms. Hi there and welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here because I asked high-performance business mentor, podcaster, and author Paul Higgins to join me. I met Paul through LinkedIn. You know how sometimes you'll get those weird connection requests, and then when you accept them, you seem to get spammed with really hardcore messaging? Well, Paul reached out to me through an email and also asked for a LinkedIn connection. I was intrigued because his messages were like none other. They were personal and relevant messages, not canned, not salesy. His interest was to broaden his network in a genuine manner. That drew me to him. I soon started following him and getting to know him through his podcast. I feel like I've gotten to know him without actually meeting him. I was super excited when he agreed to be a guest on my show. Paul helps service-based business owners struggling to strike a balance between life and work, adopt hands-off management approach, and improve profits to fund their lifestyles. To aid other service-based business owners like himself who have come to the conclusion that having a business so reliant on them is just not going to work. Paul developed a mentoring program, Build, Live, Give, that helps such business owners take control and implement an end-to-end sales and operations system that can easily generate profits. Well, let's get right into the interview. I'm super excited for you to meet Paul. Welcome, Paul. I'm so glad you joined me for the show.
Yeah, great to be here, Gayla.
Thank you so much. I would love for you to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, the first warning is I love to talk, right? So I'll try to keep it short.
No, keep on talking. I love your accent, so just keep on talking.
Thank you. Thank you. What accent? What do you mean I've got an accent? But yes, for those that haven't picked it up already, because I know sometimes it's hard to distinguish, but I'm from Australia, so from Melbourne, Australia. And if you've heard lately, we've been in severe lockdown. So for, I think all up about 4 months, we've been in lockdown. And for 2.5 of that, you couldn't go more than 5 kilometres from your house and only for essential services. So I think we've just hit 13 days of no cases. So
Wow.
That is no cases, no deaths, but it has been a hard economic road to get there. But me, look, I grew up in the bush. So yes, kangaroos, koala bears, all of those things for everyone that's listening from America can expect. That's what I had as a kid. And then for all my sins, I went and worked at the company that my dad worked at. But fortunately, that was one of the best companies in the world, which was Coca-Cola. So I had a brilliant 18-year career there. And then due to health reasons, I had to, well, I didn't have to leave, but being a proactive person, I decided to leave. And I started doing some coaching, realized that I was a better mentor than a coach. And now I continue to mentor. So that's sort of a quick snapshot of me.
Well, real quick, because that brings up a question. What's the difference between a mentor and a coach?
Yeah, so when I left, I did my coaching, certificate, curriculum, whatever you want to call it, at the Institute of Executive Coaching and Leadership. And they said the key difference is as a coach, you're holding a glass. So think of a glass and everything in the glass is from the coachee. Okay, so you don't fill that glass at all. You don't put any wisdom in. All you're doing is turning the glass in different directions, which is effectively the questions that you ask for people to see what's in the glass differently. Okay, so that was the best way that they described and always stuck with me. Whereas a mentor is more sharing their experience. Okay, so when I was in that situation, this is the experience I had. Now, there's always an overlap between the two. I use a lot of coaching in my mentoring, but fundamentally, that's the difference I was taught.
And what do you mentor in?
Yeah, so I help service-based business owners. That's my specialty, and I help them in two key areas. So one is in sales, so helping them set up their sales, and most importantly, getting new clients and keeping them. And the second is setting up their team, so they're not caught in the delivery. So they're the two things that I do. But then the outcome of that is what I call build, live, give. So it's about building a great business, but most importantly, that business funds your lifestyle. So what you love to do, and then give back. And I know pre-interview, we talked about how we were fortunate to help some of our family members that have passed, and having that time and the space to do that because you've built a really good sales system. So you've got revenue, and you've also built a really good team so you can take time off and be able to work from anywhere at any time, I think is the real outcome that I give people.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you get more from your most important asset, your time?
Yeah, so look, I always think of two simple ways of doing this. So one is using the right technology. So Zooms is a brilliant example. For me to go to a conference or me to meet someone in the US, most of my clients are in North America, is incredibly time consuming. But even for me to go to local meetings, very time consuming. Whereas using Zoom now, we can do this. I just, I've had 3 meetings all across the world this morning, easy. So I think, using technology is great, but then the technology then helps you to tap into experts, and, let's call them remote workers, experts, but people that can do things that you either shouldn't be doing or don't know how to do. I think they're the two most important things, because we all get 24/7. We've all got too much to do in the day, but if you can just focus on the few key things that only you can do, and then you can use the technology to allow others to help you with the rest, I think that's a great way of using your time.
You transitioned from the corporate world to an online business. How long have you been in the online business world?
Yeah, for 9 years.
9 years. Now that we're in the pandemic, what has changed for you? Has that affected you any?
Yeah, so in short, it's actually helped me rather than hindered me. So I was fortunate in some way. So there's always a silver lining. So my silver lining for me was that I've got a condition called polycystic kidney disease. I knew at 18, so I decided to control what I could and become high performing at 18. And everything I do at my best. But unfortunately, the condition caught up to me. And the reason I left Coca-Cola in 2011 was to basically work from anywhere. And I knew that was going to be from a hospital bed. So I wrote my book, Build, Live, Give, whilst I was actually on dialysis, waiting on a transplant. I had a successful transplant. But that meant that, I couldn't have meetings where someone was going to come on dialysis and see me, right? So pre-COVID, I was already working from anywhere, and my health actually drove that. So yes, I was proactive in managing it, right, but it drove that. So for me, when COVID came along, I'm like, well, hang on, I've just been doing this for 9 years. This is just the way the world works. And it just felt like the world was catching up to me more than anything else. And to be honest, what I've been able to do is help a lot of people through all my learnings from doing it for my health. I've been able to help people to do similar things just because their circumstances have changed. So they might have unfortunately lost their job during COVID. They may have made they've really thought about what's most important to them in these times, and they've decided to go on a different path, etc. I can help expedite their business by taking all the learnings I've done through what was, some people would say, a bit of a hindrance, which was kidney failure.
Yeah, that would probably be, in my book, that would be the biggest challenge in starting an online business is health reasons. And you're right there on dialysis writing your book. As far as business-wise, what may have been a big challenge for you when you were starting out?
Yeah, look, I think the first thing is when I left corporate is you go from a huge brand like Coca-Cola where you never want to say where you work because people either want too much product, they want a job, something about it, right? So then I walk into a room and I say, my first company was called E-Coaching. Hi, I'm from E-Coaching. Now, I didn't have any confidence in saying that at all. And I had no confidence in really what I was doing. So I went from something that was everybody in the world knew about, and it was very easy to describe, to something that even I didn't know what I was doing. So that was the first thing that really challenged me. And then I realized that, you know what, people aren't going to fall at my feet anymore. Like at Coca-Cola, like I said, you were constantly pushing people back, but you had to learn ways to actually get people to engage with you. And that's the bit that I found the hardest at the start.
In a lifestyle business, our personal and our corporate, our business is so intertwined. It is a part of us. I was taught all through my corporate, personal is personal, business is business. You separate it. Don't bring home stuff to work. But lifestyle business, I find that people want to know more about us personally. How do you feel about that? I mean,
I totally agree. And for me, I hid my condition for most of my corporate life. I never wanted to talk about it. I didn't want people to feel pity for me, and I didn't want it to be as an excuse, right? So was it the right decision? Probably not, but that's the way I took it. And even when I first started out of my own job, it was definitely that. And I think you're dead right. Like to be honest, it took me a long time to unwind my corporateness, right? So even the way I wrote to people, even the way I spoke to people, like corporate is, it's I wouldn't call it harsh, but can sometimes be, it's very business focused. Whereas bringing you, because remember that, even for your great content service, ultimately people are buying you, right? So they want to like, know, and trust you. So how do you let people know you when you've got that corporate guard up? And I found that really difficult at the start.
You leverage LinkedIn. Can you speak to that and how you leverage LinkedIn in your prospecting?
Yeah, look, and for a lot of people that are, you're listening now because you've probably moved from corporate, okay? And corporate LinkedIn is very different to you running your own business LinkedIn. And, to be honest, in the last 2 years, in the last 12 months, actually, since my transplant, I've got nearly 2 million views on LinkedIn. Okay. And I've picked up about 150 clients. So it's completely changed my world, but my website is nowhere near that. Right. Mm-hmm. So, my one advice is if you're selling B2B services and you think your clients are on LinkedIn, it's so important to be there. And that's where you can show the authentic you. Okay. And I really call it the 3 Ps. So the first P is your profile, right? So write it as if you're writing exactly to the one person, your ideal client that's coming to your profile. So a lot of people, I used to do the same, this is what I do, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, hang on, you don't even know how someone's hitting your profile. So I welcome people. In a bar, you wouldn't walk up to someone and start to say, this is what I do, etc. No, you say, hi, hello, you actually have a conversation first. So that about section needs to be conversational. And above the about section, it actually needs to sum up what you do very quickly. Okay. And if you want to look at my profile, certainly do that. You can go to blgprofile.com and that will take you direct to my profile, or Paul Higgins Mentoring. And, you'll see the way that I do that. So that's the profile. Then the next is posting. People want to know your knowledge. Like, I love podcasts. I've listened to your podcast, Gayla. I listen to lots of podcasts, but ultimately you've got to put content out. Okay. So you've got to make sure you got the right mix of what goes out versus what goes in. And what goes out needs to be content that you post on LinkedIn. People want to know your thoughts. Why are they going to pick you? Well, one of the reasons is because they understand the value you give them through your posts. And then, look, there's an algorithm and there's a certain way of doing it, which I won't go into detail now, but that's that. And then the last one is the possibilities, which is reaching out to people. So if you've got a great profile, which they'll look at when you send a connection request, they'll look and go, okay, this is worth connecting. Then they read your posts, they check your content, they think, oh, this person's great, they're actually giving value. They're more willing to open the connection request. And then there's a series of ways. And one of the key ways at the moment is using personal video. Okay, I just jumped off a webinar talking about that. And I think that's the way you connect with people at the moment. And you don't want to be, call it spam. I'm doing inverted comments if you're not watching this video, but, don't be a spammer. There's a great way to do it. You can actually show your true soul and who you are. And if you're a caring person, you're actually authentic and want to do great things, there's a way of doing that. So they're the 3 Ps, and those 3 Ps are working extremely well at the moment. And if you're not looking at LinkedIn, I highly recommend you doing it.
Now you have a resource on your website, right, for the 3 Ps?
Yeah. So it's a masterclass, and it takes you exactly through those 3. So you can just go paulhigginsmentoring.com and you can see that masterclass. And, really, like I said, look, I've had a lot of mentors, and my mentors normally pick out one key thing with me: Paul, you give too much away. All right. It's got to be, you give everything. And I'm like, well, that's just me, right? I don't like, the smoke and mirrors stuff that sometimes in marketing. And, for me, I just give my best. So in that masterclass, I just give you everything so that you can get the best outcome you can. If you want to do it by yourself, if you want to then join a community, that's great. There's an offer on that as well. But you can watch that video and actually go and do some things. And, because the hardest thing when you're running your own business, as you all know, is getting new clients. And I think LinkedIn's a great way of doing that.
I think there's a lot to be learned from you on how to make what could be, and especially, with my experience, leaving corporate to internet world, internet communication seemed cold and harsh and maybe salesy, and it's really not. It's just learning how to be genuine and communicate, cutting the hype, I guess, and just talking.
And it depends on the sort of business, Gayla, that you're trying to have. So like when I first left corporate, I had aspirations to build a really big SaaS-based business. Mm-hmm. And I had a brilliant mentor that, had a successful exit at 29, never had to work again. And he said, look, let me tell you the real behind the scenes of what happens in the Silicon Valley and the startup world. And he sort of portrayed it as a very dark picture, sadly. And he's like, you're a great guy. You're a family person. I think you've got the wrong aspirations for who you really are. And it was great. It was like, bang, it sort of hit me, in a way. I was like, oh, my balloon's deflated. But then it made me really think about, well, what do I really want to do? Like, who am I as a person? How do I want to help people? And I think with LinkedIn, yes, if you've got a business where you've got to get, hundreds of thousands of people to buy a small ticket item, maybe not LinkedIn isn't the right place for you. Maybe it's paid ads or whatever. But, most of us that leave corporate, we've got high intellect, and we want to basically find a way to scale that intellect to live a really good lifestyle, right? And I think LinkedIn's a great way of doing that. So you don't need tens of thousands of people. You just need, for me, for my high ticket item, if I get 1 new client a month, maybe 2, I'm happy, right? So I don't need to bombard people and spam people and, reduce my brand and who I am. So the key thing that I do now is send those personalized videos. I think if you can send a personal video to someone, so connect with them, then send a personal video in their email. It can be only 1 minute, right? But I think that makes all the difference, and that then breaks through versus just using automation, which is high risk for your account anyway, but just sending and bombarding people, hoping that you get 3% of people replying.
Yeah. Now, when you're leveraging LinkedIn and doing your message, do you do that personally, or do you have help with your team?
Yeah. So to be honest, it's a combination of both. So mm-hmm. I've got a community that I run called the Sales Machine. So for that, I've got a team member that does everything on that within LinkedIn, okay, on my behalf. Mm-hmm. So all my words, etc., but they basically do it as me. Then for my high ticket, I've got a great team member that basically does all the qualification, sends out the first connection request, and then they put it in my sales CRM for me to then do the video. So it's very much a combination of people helping me. And also with my posts, I've got team members that do my post, I write the content, but then they do all the logistics behind it. And the community we run, we say, look, this is everything you need to do. If you get a really great team member and a VA, you can do a lot of it yourself. You don't need to pay an agency. You don't need to pay experts per se to do it, because here's the formula. I know exactly what they do and I know what works, but you can actually have your own team running it and, save yourself quite a bit of money in doing that. So that's the model we have. But yeah, I think if I've got one thing that you take from this podcast interview is please have a virtual assistant. Okay. I don't care if they're next to you, it doesn't matter. Just have someone that's going to take that 50% of the things that you could do that you shouldn't off your plate, so you're left with the things that only you could do. And I always joke with people, you need three things as a solopreneur. You need a computer, you need a phone, and you need a virtual assistant, and then everything else will be wonderful.
You got to have a team to help you get it all done. Otherwise, you won't be able to scale, or you won't have a life that you're trying to create in a lifestyle business.
Spot on. And look, Gayla, I think, unanimously, when I ask people, what's the one thing that you would love not to do that you're currently doing? What do you think people say?
What is it?
Write content. Unanimous, right? Every time I have this conversation with people, like, I just did a major webinar to, 30,000 people, or 30,000 people were invited. I forget, we had a couple of thousand on it. But, okay, so Paul, my team will say, hey, Paul, now I want you to write this, there's 10 pieces of copy you got to write for this. And I'm like, no, I would rather jump off a bridge than do that. So that's where I think, services like you is absolutely perfect. So I think you've got to really work out which are the bits that you love to do. So if you love to write copy, that's cool. Okay, and if your content, and remember, coming from corporate, you've got to write content and copy that your audience will resonate with. For me, I was too corporate for too long, and I should have got a copyer and content writer in a lot earlier than what I did. But, work out if you don't like, I love to talk, right? So podcasting is brilliant for me. Do I like blogging, writing blogs? No. Do I like writing sales copy? No. Okay, so what I do is then get people to do that for me. And I think that's, you've got to pick who you outsource to and be really, but so like I said, the LinkedIn, a lot of the LinkedIn stuff you can do yourself, right? But the content that comes out of the LinkedIn posting, etc., and driving SEO content organic, because you're not relying just on the LinkedIn profile, that's the sort of stuff that I definitely recommend you get someone else to do if it's not your thing, because you cannot be a solopreneur and run a great business these days without creating content. I just don't believe, word of mouth referrals, that world, it was dwindling pre-COVID, but it's definitely post-COVID, that world's changed now. The one thing I will say about content though, is literally I can write a LinkedIn post, which is 15 minutes to write, right? It's 1,300 characters. Right? And it's not that difficult. If you go and look at some of my posts on LinkedIn, you'll realize, they're not that hard to come up with, right? But that can get thousands and thousands of views. So I think you don't need to only rely on LinkedIn, but I do think that is still the best organic opportunity out there for you. So yes, I mightn't love writing content, but am I pretty happy when I take 15 minutes to write something to get 200,000 views? You bet. That's great. And that's just the one exception, I think. But yes, I agree. SEO content is so valuable, and having someone like you to do that is really good. But I do think, don't dismiss LinkedIn posts as a platform because you don't like writing content. I think that's a bit of a myth that needs to be busted.
What has been your biggest reward in switching from corporate to a work from anywhere type lifestyle?
Yeah, I think one word, and that's family. I think spending time with my family has been brilliant. Like as a director of Coca-Cola, I was always on a plane, and that was without my family. And one of my biggest rewards was taking my children around the world and educating them through travel. That's probably been my greatest thing. And, yeah, so many times we'll just sit down as a family or have dinner and someone will just bring up a conversation from our trip to Europe or our trip to South Africa or the multiple trips to the Philippines. And, that they're just things you can't buy, those memories. And, I think that's been my greatest. And yesterday's a quick example. Like, normally I wouldn't have been able to do this. I was in corporate, but my son yesterday went for his learners. So here is, at 16, you get the ability to drive. You've got to do 120 hours of driving before you can then go for your license. That's how it's done here in Melbourne, Australia. And so I got to take him there. I saw the joy in his face when he got that. I got to take my daughter through getting her license. She's a bit older, but things like that, they're the great things you get to do. And then you can just work your times around. Like I mainly start at 6 a.m. Here Australian time, which is, right for the US. So I get that. And then I'll work late at night sometimes, but it's flexible. I can always fit my family stuff in. That's first, and then my work stuff goes around it. So that's got to be the biggest for me.
I love it. And I'd love for you to share your favorite resource or book that really has helped you grow professionally.
Yeah, so the book for me was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And that book I read, I'm thinking circa 1994. So I'm showing my age a bit here. And but that book just has been the bedrock for me since 1994. And I still read it every year. And every day I still read a daily reflection with the key things that I learned from that book.
Awesome. And how can people reach you?
Yeah, so look, the easiest thing is to go to my website, which is paulhigginsmentoring.com. So that's my personal brand website, and then it will take you to my services page and website from there. But I think that's the key thing. And then I've got an assessment. So, for me, being 9 years out of corporate, I've learned lots of things, and you can go to paulhigginsmentoring.com/assessment. It's 15 questions, 3 minutes, but it will make a massive change for you based purely on the fact that I'm 9 years in. Okay, you're smart, lots of things. But to me, I call it the highway of success, and I took a lot of detours, right? And all I want you to do is to go through that. So go to the site, go to the assessment. And the last one that I will talk about, which if you're watching this video, you can see in the background, is my book, Build, Live, Give. And that's basically me just sharing my learnings from going from corporate to being a solopreneur and just giving lessons that I learned the hard way and helping you avoid those. And all the proceeds of that book go to a charity called the Purple House, which helps people on dialysis in mainly Indigenous people in Australia in very hard to reach places. So it's my way of giving back both to you, so helping you on your journey, but also giving back to people on dialysis in Australia.
Oh, thank you, Paul. I'm going to have all of those links in the show notes for listeners. They can just scroll down and click and get to your contact information and the resources that we had discussed today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Scarlett. Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for everyone for taking the time to listen.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to take Paul up on his offer on his free on-demand masterclass to gain 3 to 5 clients a month on LinkedIn by going to buildlivegive.com. All the links to his contact information, his podcast, everything is right here in the show notes. If you found this episode helpful, I'd be honored if you'd subscribe. Your help in getting the word out about this show is so appreciated. Consider taking a screenshot and sharing on Facebook or Instagram, and be sure to tag me. Leave a review. Any or all of these methods is super helpful and, like I said, is much appreciated. Well, until next time, have a fantastic week.